Today, let's complete first of all the lecture about the usability testing, and then that is video recorded because yesterday we didn't complete these last 5-6 slides, and then we will stop the video recording and we will let's try to prepare a draft of a script for the usability testing plan. So just to recap, since you are a little bit more today than yesterday, yesterday we introduced the usability testing as a quick, relatively quick and anecdotally, not scientific way of testing the usability in various in its various factors, learnability, ease of use, and so on, of an interactive system in general. And we see that the most important part of the usability testing is the planning of it, because if you plan it very, very carefully, then it's easier to make basically few or no mistakes in the execution and in the actual analysis of the results. And we have seen that there is various steps. Choose your target user, choose your task. Task must be clear, with a clear goal. You can add a scenario to those tasks. You can have some equipment. You can mix different kind of equipment. You can have automatic logging of your application, and so on. And we stop here in questionnaire that you may have at the end of your session with a participant. So you can create a questionnaire from scratch, asking about learnability, usability, ease of use, and so on. And or you can use some of the existing validated and reliable questionnaire that exist. And we have seen yesterday a post-task questionnaire, just one question, that is the single is question. And today we can reprise from here about the system usability scale. That is a questionnaire post-test. So at the end of a session with a participant, you can administer this questionnaire. This questionnaire is defined by the author of this questionnaire, a quick and dirt usability scale. It's simple to use, simple to perform scoring. It was invented in 1986. It measures, and this is extremely important, the perceptive, the perceived, the subjective usability of a system, an application, a website, an hardware tool, no matter, just a system, the perceived subjective usability of the system. It is a 10 questionnaire. Each of these 10 questions have a Likert scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is strongly disagree and 5 is strongly agree. So 5 response options, and in the end the questionnaire produces a score from 0 to 100 that is not equivalent to a percentage score, so it's not comparable between different systems, but is based on quartile. And so you can say that, for instance, if your system has a system usability scale score of 80, it's among the best 10% of the website that uses this, but for the usability. But you cannot say it's better than another. It's just in a group of the best website of your kind. And a SU score, that is also the reason why you cannot have, is not equivalent to a percentage score. A SU score of above 68 is considered above average, so quite good. Not 50, not 51, but 68 or more. So 80 is a great number, a great result obtained for this system usability scale. And these are the 10 questions. If you look for SUS on the web, you find a lot of, you can find a lot of templates, a lot of picture PDF like this, which already the scale, the space for setting up the response, and these are the 10 questions. So there is one thing that should have able to catch immediately here among these questions. There is something that sounds strange if you read them. Yeah.
Yeah, the second and the third answer would be can be same 5.
Not more or less, but it's not this one. So a system could be complex but easy to use, because maybe you have, so let me make an example. The cockpit of an airplane is complex, for sure. You have a lot of button and so on, but for the trained pilot is quite easy to use. So it's not really the same thing, easiness and complexity of the system. A system could be complex but quite easy to use because it's immediate, it's easy to learn, or you can understand where you are going, but it's inherently complex. So they're not the same concept really. There is another things. If you read, I don't know, the first 4 you should notice. Yeah.
They alternate in good and bad results.
Yeah. The first, the third, the fifth, the seventh, the ninth are positive. I think that they would like to use, was easy to use, well integrated, and so on, while the second, the fourth, the sixth are unnecessary complex or negative. Unnecessary complex, I need the support of a person. So this is why when you compute the score, you have this strange mechanism, because in the scoring here, you have always one, strongly disagree. So in the first one, I strongly disagree, a positive thing. In the second one, I strongly disagree, a negative thing. So the result is positive in the end. So I think that I would like to use strongly agree. This is a very positive answer. I found the system unnecessarily complex. If I say strongly agree, this is a very, very negative answer. But this is 5 for both of them. So to compute the score, you scale down the score to 4 instead to 5, and you have to perform this calculation. That is quite simple. For every odd number question, so 1, 3, and so on, you subtract 1 from the score. So if you get 5, it's 4, the result of the single question. If you get 4, it's 3, and so on. For the negative question, the even number, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, you subtract the score from 5. So if the score is 4, in this case, the result is 1. So you balance the negative with the positivity, basically. Once you perform this computation, you sum the score. So if you imagine just 2 questions, it's 3 plus 1 for all the questions, and multiply the total by 2.5. That's it. So your result for every odd number question minus 1 plus your result of even number question 5 minus the results, sum everything and multiply the total by 2.5. If you get in the positive answer all strongly agree, and in the negative question all strongly disagree, you have 100 by applying this score. And this is the default score for the system usability scale questionnaire. It was invented in this way. It's not just something that I say, let's complex the life to people. It's the actual way of scoring that. So the system usability scale has quite a lot of advantages and also some disadvantages. So the score reliability is very, very good. It was evaluated over decades of usage in industry with various kinds of devices, of application, of tools, and it's on par with more complex systems for the perceived usability. It's also free because it's a piece of paper that is available on the internet. Also, the scoring system is understandable and available. It's quick, just 10 questions, and it's quite simple. It's quite used in industry, so a lot of people use the system usability scale, and it's also applicable to a wide range of technologies, system, hardware, software, and whatsoever. It has some disadvantages. So it's a subjective measure of the perceived usability. So it's really, it's too much subjective in a certain sense. So it's written it should not be used. It should not be your only method. Let's say that it must not be your only method. You cannot have a usability test which deals with only data that you get from the test. This could be a questionnaire post-session, but you should have a lot of other data coming from the task that you realized to complement in a more quantitative way this perceived usability of the system. It's not enough to say, this is a system, I've done some task, randomly, I get no data, but I give a SUS score of 90. Great, but it's really subjective, so you don't have any precise information of how to improve your application, your system to improve the score. It's just a number, it's giving you a clue on what to change to improve this result. It's not diagnostic in this sense. And as I said before, it's not possible to make a comparison between two systems that in their functionality by using this scale. They are not, you can say again, my website got 80 as a score, so it's among the best 10% of website. It's not better than another website in general. This system has a perceived usability quite high. This is the result that you may obtain. You cannot compare one system with one prototype with another prototype. The sentence, my SUS score is better than yours, doesn't hold here. So you can use it, you can create your questionnaire, but just keep in mind these advantages and disadvantages. Another post-test questionnaire that measures another thing, and it's much more complex to calculate the score, is the NASA Task Load Index that was created by NASA for measuring the perceived, again, workload, not the usability of the system, not the user use, but the workload that a system, typically a complex system, like those for that aerospace crew member experience in their travel, have. So the perceived workload, the perceived fatigue that the system, the high complex system, exhibit to people. Because if you have a too high workload, then probably performance decrease after a certain time, attention decrease. And so you can make more mistakes. And in this complex, high technical task, like in aerospace, could be a huge problem if you get distracted or make a lot of errors. So it's important in some domains to measure the workload of your system to the person. And this is obviously useful for complex product in healthcare, aerospace, military. Also, this is also used in immersive virtual reality environment to assess the workload of the people in virtual reality with all the tasks that they have to do. Also in training to learn a new task in a virtual environment. And this questionnaire are just 6 questions, but the scale is unlabeled on 21 points. So much more detailed than the SUS scale. So here, for instance, I have different category for frustration. You have how insecure, discouraged, irritated, stressed, and annoyed were you. So quite large question. And you can select from very low up to very high in 21 points. So it's something that add some workload to the participant to complete, but it is also very reliable for this complex task. And you have 6 questions, and each question address one different dimension of workload that are those one: mental demand, physical demand, time pressure, perceived success, overall efforts, and frustration. And then each of them is in the question defined as insecure, discouraged, irritated, stressed, and annoyed for frustration. So just different factors, different phases of the same definition of the same dimension. And the respondents of this survey weight each of, so after you got the respondent from this, you have to weight each of these questions in these 6 categories, and you can say, okay, this system is much more complex for the physical demand, for the mental demand, and so on, for the frustration, and so on. And I will not put here how to compute the score of this, because it's quite complex. It's so complex that NASA shares both a free mobile application to compute the score automatically, and a series of paper and pencil version with instruction how to fill the questionnaire and how to compute the score. So it's not something like the system usability scale that you have 5, that you get 5 minus the score, or the score minus 4, and you got it. This is much more complex. So if you append, probably you will not here, but if in your life you happen to measure the workload of a system in in a complex setting, this is the right questionnaire to use. That is complex, and you have pointer and instruction how to compute the score. I put here, then this is a new slide for today, so if you download this set aside yesterday, this was not there. A couple links about some sample usability testing script. We are going to open this just to have an example, and also some information how to create a good task, and we are going to follow this later on. And so, and this close the planning phase. You plan everything, so you're ready to start. You also tried with some friends possibly your script, and so you are ready to start the running and analyzing phase of the testing. So for running, you just fix a place, fix a time, get the participant in, the facilitator read the script, typically get informed consent, better in written format, and the facilitator, this is very important, have to tell each participant in the script and during the testing that you are testing the application, not the person. Any mistake that happens, any frustration, any problem is the application fault, is the system fault, is the interface fault, not the people fault. This must be clear, because otherwise in certain case people feel stupid or not able to do some task. And so by declaring explicitly that it's not true, it's not the people that is stupid in doing the task, but it's the task, it's the application that has some problem that causes that stupidity feeling, you set up the stage for any problem. So again, it's important to tell participants that the object of testing is the system, the application, the interface, not the person. The person is there to help you discover problems for your application and for your system. While running the usability testing, the facilitator should always follow the script so that everybody receives the same identical information, remain neutral, not give suggestion, hints, not to help the participant, and provide clear instruction. And tasks typically are given in a written form, one at a time. In some cases, they are also given vocally, or in alternative, written or vocally, it depends on the task. If it has some important details, it's always better to have a written task and repeat it vocally. If you use some methodology, it's the facilitator that must encourage the participant to adopt and explain at the beginning which what is the methodology for at the right moment. So if you have just one task with the think aloud, you have to explain what the think aloud is and briefly, and how to perform it, and only for the task and not for the other, or only for a series of tasks, or only for the entire session with think aloud. While note takers takes notes of the participant behavior, its comment, her comments, any error that they make, and also if the participant complete with success or not a task, and any additional notes that they feel like it could be important for the results of the test. And before running the test, the system, the application, the tool, whatever it is, must be ready to measure all the defined criteria. So you should have a questionnaire ready, you should have a facilitator that noticing things for the more subjective criteria, for instance. And the application should be instrumented to log timestamp if you choose that criteria to be filled in. So after running this test for, we have said 5 people, so 5 times the same results, you have a bunch of data from different people, and you have to analyze that. And the idea is just to analyze, obviously, data to find failure in the interface and ways to improve it. Not just find problems, also have hints on how to improve it. And you can use the combination of equipment that the results of using those equipment that we mentioned yesterday, written notes, audio, video, usage log from the application, and so on. And during the analysis, you have to consider the collected metrics per task and maybe overall. So maybe there is some task that performed very, very well for all participants, others that perform very, very bad from some participant, and maybe the results is quite bad. But you have to recognize that some tasks work very well, so that part probably are good enough, while others are more problematic. Or that some participants have more problem on some kind of task than others. Quantitative data can be obviously summarized, like success rate. The overall success rate of all tasks for all participants is 80%. For instance, as well, task time, the average task time for task number 1 for all tasks is 1 minute, and so on. Error rate, satisfaction question rating, and so on. And the other things, just over summarize, is to look for trends and keep account of problem that occurred across participants. So not just the participant and its problem, but also a problem that participant A, B, and F has. So observation about pathway the participant took in using the application. Maybe you're expecting that from point A they reach immediately point B, but they click on point A and then on point C and then on point F, and finally they reach point B. And if all 5 participants do this, probably there is something problematic in your application. Any comments or recommendation that they make, maybe you can put together this information, put together the screen, and so on. And also any answer to the open question that you may have in the debriefing session if you decide to have a debriefing moment. And this basically conclude this part. So once you have prepared an accurate planning, running is just following that plan, and analyze it strongly depend from the results that you have, but just take into consideration trends, problem, not only the measured problem, also comments, and so on, and think not just the single participant, but also what happens across participants. Before stopping the video registration, let me open these. These are 2 samples of usability test. If you look on internet, usability test script, you find a lot of examples and suggestions. They are quite good in general because it's something that is really, really consolidated as a practice. So it's easy to find a lot of information. So just to have a couple of examples, this is a web usability testing script that is structured in this way. You have some information for the facilitator. The start recording is not something that is for the participant. It's the facilitator that to remind that he have to start recording. And you have what happens. So the facilitator probably introduce himself or herself before here, meet participant, introduce to observer. And then there are sentence that the facilitator is reading. I'm going to show you the home page of website. You can look for a few seconds only, then ask you some question, the exact word that the facilitator is going to say, and what happens in that moment. Participant look at page for 5-10 seconds. So after 10 seconds, the facilitator say, okay, stop, and proceed. And you have here some task. For instance, you have a task with think aloud, and it's written, think aloud. Again, this is not something that the facilitator say to the participant, but it's something that he has to know, because here, say for the rest of the task, you will need to think aloud. And the definition, you must tell me what you are thinking. And there is an example, and so on. Then another information for the facilitator, another action for the facilitator, get browser to the home page. And here you can say, for instance, a task. Your next task is to find the career page within the LSE site, whatever it is, LSE. And so in this moment, the participant, by using think aloud, is performing this task. It's looking for starting from the home page, the careers page on that website. So here probably they were interested in the navigation of the website, the easiness to reach the career page. And then there is a task 4, task 5, and then finish. Then this is an example. You have post-test question by not using a standard questionnaire, but just reading session, collect answer, and then there is another message for the facilitator, and thank you and goodbye, basically. And some space here for observer to write a note. So this is something that the observer and the facilitator can share, a physical piece of paper or a digital document, so that they can one read and the other take notes on this. This is just a sample. It's very, very short. And this is the wrong link. And this is probably another example. Allora. This is another example. The structure is similar but not identical. There is not a right way to do this. And again, you have information for the facilitator. The facilitator, before starting the session, say web browser should be open to Google or some other neutral page. So the participant have a computer in front of it with the Google homepage. And then here the script is much more precise. Hi, name of the participant. My name is name of the facilitator. And I'm going to be walking you, and this is the script the facilitator is reading word by word to each participant. And here, if you go down, you notice that other instruction for the facilitator, give them a recording permission form, while they sign the informed consent to start screen recording. And there is some question here. It could be embedded in the survey, in the script. It could be apart. So you give just the questionnaire to the participant and he write down the answer, and you don't have it in the script. Just an indication that here goes the welcome questionnaire, the background information questionnaire, and then other action to set up everything. And here, so you can have a look of this more accurately after. Here, for instance, you don't have task in the script. It's quite typical not to have them. at a certain point it will say, now I'm going to ask you to try doing some specific task. I'm going to read each other out loud and give you a printed copy. And so here it gives the participant the task, and so this is not, since it reads the task that are written in a separate paper, these are not reported here. Typically what happens is that you have the script like this, and the task, the criteria, whatever you needed to have in your planning before or after the script, so that day you are using the script and the questionnaire and a list in a tabular form, for instance, for the tasks, but you don't have everything embedded in the script. So that day you can print just the 2 or 3 pages needed for the script, the page with the task, and you have planned in another place all the criteria, all the metrics, and so on. Maybe the observer may have some criteria, some metrics to catch better some information. So these are just a couple of examples. And this is instead how to create tasks. That was sort of a question yesterday. So they say, for instance, first of all, for a website like there, the user in that website that offer a lot of functionality must be able to accomplish these 3 things, because these 3 things are the most important things in this website according to their authors. And so, for instance, find article on a specific topic. And then you can create a task scenario. So, for instance, here, let's say you are planning a vacation to New York City, March 3, 14. You need to buy, and so on. So it creates a context for the user and also information. Go to American Airlines site and JetBlue Airlines site and see who has the better detail. This is a general scenario with some task in it. And then you have 3 suggestions on creating the task, make the task realistic, actionable, and avoid giving the resulting operation of the task inside the task. So for instance, if your goal is browse product offering and purchase one of them, the better task is buy a pair of shoes for less than $40. So precise what you're going to buy and which criteria you have to use during the this process. Or make the task actionable. So if the goal is find movies and short time, the adequate task is use website to find a movie you will be interested in seeing, so you can create some context on Sunday afternoon. You gave the user a website, find a task, find a movie on a specific period of a specific day, the afternoon. So actionable, something that can be done to do the action and avoid giving up clue or describing how to reach the result. So if the goal is look up grades, you should not say, we want to see the result of your exam. Go to the website, sign in, and tell me where you would click to get your transcript. You are suggesting how to proceed. A better task is look up the result of your midterm exam on the website that is open in front of it. So you have a specific, again, task. Look for the result of what? Of your exam, not any exam, the midterm exam of all your courses in a university. So this is something that could be also useful to have read. So now in this 45 minutes, what we are going to do is to take a software application that is installed here, and you should have some familiarity, and try together to devise the task, devise some metrics, and write maybe a little bit of script, not with so much details, hi, I am, welcome, and so on. We can skip that for time purpose, but they must be present, obviously, in your script as well. So for this, I stop the registration now.